A device rests on a desk surface. Material composition: ABS plastic housing, silicone rubber port covers, copper contact points with nickel plating. Device age: 14 months continuous use. Off-gassing profile: measurable volatile organic compounds detected via gas chromatography. Primary compounds: benzene derivatives, phthalate esters, trace formaldehyde. Concentration at 5 centimeters from device surface, 12 parts per billion measured. Face positioned above device. Distance nostril to surface, 8 centimeters. Breathing pattern: nasal inhalation, oral exhalation. Inhalation duration: 2.1 seconds. Exhalation: 2.4 seconds. Respiratory rate: 14 cycles per minute. Odorant molecules enter nasal cavity during inhalation phase. Airflow velocity at anterior nares: 1.3 meters per second measured. Olfactory epithelium located at superior nasal cavity roof. Surface area: 10 square centimeters per nostril. Olfactory receptor neurons, approximately 10 million per side. Receptor types activated: benzene-sensitive ORs, phthalate-sensitive ORs. Binding sites occupied by airborne molecules. Neural firing rate elevated above baseline. Olfactory bulb receives afferent signals. Perception: plastic electronic odor detected. Conscious awareness present. Exposure duration: 38 minutes continuous. Head position maintained over device during work task execution. Odorant concentration constant at source. Receptor adaptation progressing. Device is relocated. Movement: desk to drawer 49 centimeters below desk surface. Drawer closure: odorant source removed from nasal proximity. Timestamp: 11:42:17. Prior exposure duration: 38 minutes 12 seconds. Airflow at nostril: transitions from odorant-laden to ambient room air. Room air composition: background VOC concentration, 2 parts per billion, 6-fold decrease from device proximity concentration. Olfactory receptor activity does not immediately reset to baseline. Neuronal firing rate remains elevated for 297 milliseconds post-source removal. Odorant molecules no longer entering nasal cavity. Receptor binding sites still occupied by molecules captured during final inhalation prior to removal. Molecular dissociation in progress but incomplete. Nasal epithelium mucus layer retains dissolved odorant molecules. Mucus turnover rate slow relative to receptor timescale. Molecules embedded in mucus continue stimulating receptors despite external source absence. Olfactory cilia still contact odorant-containing mucus. Neural signal transmission continues reporting odor presence. Conscious perception: plastic electronic scent persists. Verbal report at 150 milliseconds post-removal, still smells like the device. Visual confirmation: device absent from field. Olfactory input contradicts visual reality. Scent phantom active. At 300 milliseconds post-removal, olfactory receptor rate begins decline. Odorant dissociation accelerates. Mucus clearance progressing. By 540 milliseconds, olfactory signal approaches baseline. Phantom scent cleared from conscious perception. Olfactory reset lag produces behavioral consequence. Task sequence initiated. Device used 32 minutes. Removed at 14:07:53. Immediate action. Food consumption attempted. Food item. Apple slice. Expected olfactory input. Fruit esters. Fresh plant volatiles. Actual initial perception. Muted fruit scent, overlaid with residual plastic odor phantom. Flavor perception compromised. Olfactory component of taste represents 80% of flavor experience. Phantom plastic scent interferes with apple olfactory signature detection. First bite, flavor rated subjectively as off or contaminated. Actual apple, uncontaminated, verified via independent tester. Perception error, attributable to olfactory receptor reset lag, creating false odor mixture. Second trial executed. Device exposure, 41 minutes. Removed at 14:53:29. Immediate olfactory task. Identifying ground coffee aroma from container. Coffee volatile profile, complex, 200+ aromatic compounds. Receptor state, adapted to device blastic baseline. Coffee container opened at 212 milliseconds into reset window. Initial sniff, coffee aroma detected but described as chemically altered. Phantom plastic scent persists, blending with coffee olfactory signature. Accurate coffee aroma identification delayed until 600 milliseconds post-device removal, when receptor baseline restoration completes. Task error. Coffee type misidentified during phantom window. Correct identification achieved only after reset. Daily olfactory confusion events, 26 occurrences. Individual event duration, 300 milliseconds average. Cumulative daily olfactory distortion time, 13.8 seconds. Food beverage consumption events coinciding with reset windows, 8 per day. Flavor perception disruption rate, 73% of coincident consumption events. The isolated variable, olfactory receptor, occupancy decay latency. Odorant source, removed from environment. External stimulus eliminated. Receptor binding sites remain occupied by previously captured molecules. Occupancy clearance requires finite duration. Measured latency, 300 milliseconds average. Olfactory receptor physiology, G protein-coupled receptors embedded in cilia membrane. Odorant binding initiates conformational change, activates signal cascade. Dissociation, reverse process, molecule releases from binding pocket. Dissociation rate determined by binding affinity. Strong binders, longer dissociation time. Weak binders, rapid release. Device plastic volatiles, moderate binding affinity measured. Dissociation half-life, approximately 90 milliseconds per molecule. Complete clearance requires multiple half-lives. 3 half-lives, 270 milliseconds, 95% clearance achieved. Observed reset, 300 milliseconds, consistent with 3+ half-life duration. The gap is not airflow. Fresh air enters immediately upon source removal. The gap is molecular. Receptors hold odorant molecules bound despite absence of new molecular input. Release requires biochemical unbinding time, plus local mucus odorant depletion. Device positioned near face. Exposure duration 27 minutes. Plastic electronic odor detected continuously. Olfactory adaptation partial. Perception intensity decreases from initial acute awareness to moderate background awareness by minute 22. Receptor firing rate stabilizes at adapted elevated baseline. Conscious odor detection persists, but reduced salience. Device removed at 16:28:34. Placed in closed container outside room. Reset window, 300 milliseconds initiated. Concurrent task, tea preparation and consumption. Tea type, green tea. Dominant volatiles include linalool, geraniol, hexanol. Cup raised to face at 183 milliseconds into reset window. Inhalation over cup rim intended to detect tea aroma. Perceived aroma, plastic tea mixture. Receptor state, residual device odorant occupancy ongoing. Tea volatiles enter nasal cavity, bind to available receptor sites. Occupied sites still processing plastic volatiles. Dual odorant perception, tea and phantom plastic sensed simultaneously. Aroma quality, distorted, rated as industrial or synthetic despite tea authenticity verified. Sip taken during phantom window. Flavor perception significantly altered. Taste buds function normally. Detect bitter catechins and amino acid umami. Olfactory contribution compromised by phantom interference. Overall flavor rated 3 out of 10. Same tea consumed after reset completion. Flavor rated 8 out of 10. Reset completion restores accurate flavor perception. Third exposure cycle. Device use 19 minutes. Removed at 17:04:11. Reset lag 300 milliseconds. No consumption task attempted during window. Nasal breathing continues without intentional olfactory sampling. Phantom plastic scent present but not task interfering. Reset proceeds undisturbed. By 500 milliseconds, ambient room odor accurately perceived without contamination. Multi-day observation implemented. Day 1 metrics. Device exposure events 17. Exposure durations range 11 to 43 minutes. Removal events 17. Olfactory reset occurrences 17. 1-to-1 mapping. Consumption or olfactory sampling tasks during reset windows 6. Task perception disruption incidents 4 documented. Error categories: flavor misidentification, aroma contamination reports, food freshness misjudgment. Day 4 metrics. Exposure events 22. Reset window attempts 9. Disruption count 7. Day 8. Exposures 27. Reset attempts 11. Disruptions 8. Exposure frequency increases. Disruption rate maintains proportional relationship. 64 to 72% of reset window olfactory tasks exhibit measurable perception error. The olfactory ghosting becomes recognized as recurring sensory artifact. Pattern identified at Day 7 analysis. Persistent device material scent phantom following prolonged exposure creates 300 millisecond vulnerability window where flavor and odor perception accuracy degrades. Receptor adaptation capacity does not improve with repeated exposure. Reset latency, day 1, 298 milliseconds mean. Reset latency, day 8, 302 milliseconds mean. Difference, 4 milliseconds, within measurement variability. The 300 millisecond window represents fixed physiological parameter. Olfactory receptor dissociation kinetics unchanged by conditioning. Delay, biological constant rather than modifiable learned parameter. Compensatory strategy emergence. By day 11, consumption tasks deliberately delayed until estimated reset completion. Pre-consumption pause implemented averaging 600 milliseconds post-device removal. Error rate decreases from 68% to 31%. Efficacy confirmed through deliberate temporal spacing. Cost, consumption initiation delay reduces eating efficiency by measured 18%. Olfactory task sequence, executed without device exposure. Individual seated in device-free environment. Room air quality. Background VOC concentration 1.8 parts per billion. Minimal odorant loading. Nasal breathing maintained for 40-minute duration, matching typical device exposure interval. No plastic electronic odorant source present. Olfactory receptors operate on veridical environmental stimuli within nominal response specifications. Phantom persistence not applicable. Reset delays absent. Flavor perception uncompromised throughout 40-minute observation window. Baseline integrated chemosensory function preserved.
"90-day observation window implemented. Device exposure frequency. Day 1, 15 events. Day 30, 38 events. Day 90, 59 events. Increase magnitude, 293% escalation. Per exposure duration. Day 1, 23 minutes mean. Day 90, 47 minutes mean. Daily cumulative device proximity time. Day 1, 5.8 hours. Day 90, 12.1 hours. Olfactory exposure load doubled. Reset event frequency. Day 1, 15. Day 90, 59. Consumption or olfactory sampling tasks during 300 millisecond reset windows. Day 1, 5 instances. Day 90, 16 instances. Daily aggregate olfactory confusion temporal duration. Day 1, 4.7 seconds cumulative. Day 90, 17.7 seconds cumulative. Consumption perception error count. Day 1, 3 errors. Day 90, 11 errors documented. Error rate per reset concurrent task. Stable range, 62 to 69% across observation period. Device off-gassing intensity progression. Day 1, VOC concentration, 9 parts per billion at 5 centimeters distance. Day 90, concentration, 14 parts per billion. Older device materials. increased volatile emission due to polymer degradation. Higher baseline odorant exposure produces stronger receptor adaptation. Receptor firing baseline more elevated during exposure. Phantom intensity amplified post-removal due to greater occupancy level requiring clearance. Multi-device scenario develops. Workspace contains 3 separate devices. Device A, VOC signature dominated by phthalates. Device B, benzene derivatives dominant. Device C, mixed profile. Sequential exposure. A for 30 minutes, then B for 20 minutes with 7-minute gap. Gap duration insufficient for complete receptor clearing from device A. Device B exposure begins while receptors still clearing device A odorants. Phantom mixture. Device A scent persists into device B exposure onset. Odor perception. Confused blend of actual device B volatiles plus phantom A remainder. Day 90 device switching events, 19 per day. Inter-device gaps, 41% occur within reset window duration. Olfactory confusion events from overlapping phantoms, 7.8 per day. Food consumption errors from phantom contamination, 4.1 per day. Cumulative flavor perception accuracy, degraded by chronic olfactory baseline drift and frequent phantom interference. Workplace air quality monitoring requested, twice by building management following odor complaints. Odor complaints attribute chemical smell to building ventilation. Actual source, individual's nasal mucosa retaining device odorants, creating persistent phantom detection even after devices removed. Environmental air testing shows VOC levels within normal range. Phantom misattributed to external environmental contamination rather than receptor reset lag internal to observer.
Hand reach toward device on desk. Movement initiates then arrests mid-trajectory. The reach does not complete. Vocalization onset at sm. Phoneme production ceases. Brief acoustic echo detected. Word formation does not occur. Background ventilation tone sustains at constant low frequency. Ambient sound maintains steady amplitude. Tone cessation occurs without gradual decay transition. A brief silence follows. Olfactory receptor activity logs document cyclical exposure pattern. Device proximity high daily frequency. Device removal correspondingly high frequency. Receptor reset lag 300 milliseconds per event. Daily event count 59 by observation end. Odorant perception accuracy limited to intervals outside reset windows. Consumption tasks during resets subject to systematic flavor distortion. Disruption frequency scales with device interaction rate. Reset duration physiologically invariant. Device off-gassing intensifies with age. Odorant concentration increases. Phantom intensity amplifies while temporal window remains constant. The pattern recurs with each device exposure and subsequent removal.